Madaweka listeners, and thanks for tuning in to Numu Tekwaru, the Comanche Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Sarae Ticeahkie. Today, we have 3 Comanche Nation tribal members who have served our country with courage, commitment, and heart. So today's conversation, we're obviously going to hear stories from these gentlemen right here, probably about military life, identity, healing, and what it truly means to be a Comanche veteran. So to our listeners, wherever you are, take a moment to remember and thank those who have served, and let's begin this conversation. So gentlemen, could each of you introduce yourself and give us a little bit of your background?
Okay, my name is Roger Tejano. I'm from Fletcher, Oklahoma, and graduated high school from Surreal. And I went 6 miles down the road. But I was in the United States Air Force from 1965 to 1969. Overseas, went to Thailand, went inside the Nam a little bit, and was stationed down. My main station was in Fort Worth, Texas. I stayed there for 3 years, and I was a security policeman. After I got out, my time was over. I went to Cameron, used the Air Force, graduated from Cameron, and retired as a highway engineer. And it was with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And the Air Force was good for me, really good for me. Made me kind of grow up a little bit.
Oh, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My name is Lanny Ticeahkie. I'm a retired Army Sergeant Major and a Vietnam War veteran. I was born in Iola, Kansas. I grew up west of Apache from age 3 months. I was raised by my grandparents, the late George Ticeahkie Sr. and Hetty Jones Ticeahkie. I originally was with the War Scouts from 1992 to 95, and I've been with the CIVA since 1995 until now.
All right.
My name is Kevin Poapechko, and I'm from Cache. And I was born at Fort Raleigh, Kansas. Came from an Army family, but I went Navy. I retired out of the Navy Reserves, and I was a quartermaster, petty officer, first class. Veteran of Operation Praying Mantis, and Operation Iraqi and Enduring Freedom. And I got affiliated with CIVA when I was serving as a federal police officer with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I had to, leave work and see these gentlemen, and I joined and I served. I was elected as a second vice commander, then the vice commander, then the commander of the organization. But it's a very good organization to belong to, and a lot of history, which will be told here in a little bit.
All right. So obviously CIVA, we're definitely going to hop into that, but I do want to get a little bit more background. First of all, thank you for your service to all 3 of you. I do kind of want to know what inspired you to join the military. Was there someone in your family that influenced you in that decision?
When I graduated from high school, I was kind of tired of going to school, but I went to Cameron because everybody else was going to college. Everybody else was doing it, and I went there. I hem-hawed. I wasn't really into it. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to work and I wanted to go to school, but and then in the back of my mind, I was still looking at the military. Guys in the military, I was going to Cameron that were veterans themselves, told me to go in the Air Force or Navy because you learn a job. They said if you go in the Army or Marines, all you can do is carry a rifle. And so I went in the Air Force because I checked with all the Army and I checked with the Marines and Navy. But my brother, he almost talked me into joining the Navy with him, but I went Air Force because the Air Force recruiter told me there was a chance I could get into the engineering school if I made a certain grade in the general field, which I did, and I done real good. And so that's why I went in the Air Force. But they didn't put me in the engineering field. I got stuck as an air policeman. So all the time I was in there, I carried a gun anyway. So it did make a difference. But it was my dad. He's one that was said, if I didn't know what I want to do, he said, get in the military because it'll help you. It'll help you grow up. Help you make up your mind and get you a little more, educate you. You'll get you a little more self-discipline about yourself. So that's the main reason I did, because of him. And he was a World War II veteran. He was in Germany, and he's seen a lot of action over there. And I had a lot of respect for those World War II men. Man, they just thinking about what they went through, and it's. But after I did, went in, it did. They mom and daddy wasn't there to wake you up to go to school every morning. You had to do it on your own. And made a lot of friends, and it was just it's like a big boys club almost, and but you still, you had your duties, and being a security policeman, that's what I ended up being. You had to have a little higher standards than everybody else because you were in the public's eye. Your dress, your manners, your conduct, and going to Cameron the first time, ROTC was a mandatory requirement, and when they saw that on my records, they were trying to get me to go OCS, but I just wanted to do my time and get out. I want to get back into the engineering field after I got out, but and being that way, they put me in charge of the dorm. I was called the dorm chief. That's the only time I was called chief in the military, because I was the dorm chief. I was in charge of the dorm when the TIs weren't there, and everybody respected it. I didn't have any trouble with anybody. Everybody, and I felt so bad for sometimes some of those guys just couldn't. There was one young man from Tennessee. Me and this other guy, we stayed up late trying to help him drill, and going over the books with him, trying to help him, do his, the work and stuff. But boy, I don't know if he just couldn't grasp it. I think that was it. But we stayed up late, had the bathroom lights on because there's no windows outside, and we stayed up with him. But when we had our one inspection, he didn't pass, and he got set back. I just felt bad for him, but and then we had some guys ahead of us that dropped back down to us, so it was a crazy ordeal. But I credit the military for getting me my life straightened out and get me on the straight narrow path, and I recommend. I think every young man should go through that. If everybody did, you wouldn't have as many gangs as they got there. So many young men getting in trouble, But and I reckon every young man should go through it, because there's things you go through, you see there's other people who are halfway around the world just like you, and you become friends, and you make yourself known to them, and because they knew about Native Americans over there in Thailand and Vietnam. They knew about Native Americans, and I know when they first found out that I was Native American, they almost number one. But they kept saying, when I told them I was Indian, they kept saying India. India is no, my, not no Indian. American Indian, Native American. Mm-hmm. And then finally the interpreter told them, woo. Oh boy, number one. But they knew, they knew about the natives, and one good thing about it is, I had it made over there because they said, you're the same, mm-hmm. number one, number, and I had it pretty well made over there. I got in good with the Thai City Police Chief, and he ran that town. I'd go with him, do town patrol times when I wasn't on duty. He asked me to, and I'd ride around with him in his Jeep, and all the big wigs got to know who I was, and when I ride around with him, there was the Thai natives just look at me and the uniform, then they'd look at me, a question in their eyes, you know. You know, who are, what, you know, what. But it was a fantastic, I think that was the best year of my life. That was something else. He tried to get me to get out over there. He says, I want to make you the go-between between the military, Army, and the Air Force Base. He says, I'll get you a bungalow, pay you a good job, you know, and I want to use you as a consultant for. Boy, I almost did, but I didn't. I wished I did sometimes, but. And when I got home, I said, I'll never eat rice again. And in 3 months, I was trying to cook it.
Oh, my gosh.
That's crazy. Go ahead, Lanny.
Okay. I mentioned earlier I was raised by my grandparents from age 3 months. I was born in 1946. My grandmother, Hetty Jones Ticeahkie, is from the Tewahatchee family. As I grew up in our house, there was a picture of her brother who was killed in World War II in Germany. His name was Matthew Halziptai. He was wounded twice and he was killed in action on 10 April 1945, about a month and a few days before the war ended. Well, growing up, I saw that picture every day. Then in 1954, she added my uncle's picture, George H. Permy Jr., who served in the Army from 52 to 54. Then in 1957, she added a picture of my aunt, Teresa H. Permy Paulus, who served in the Air Force from 55 to 57. So I grew up seeing these three pictures of our military people. And somewhere along the line, I decided that I wanted to be a soldier. So like Roger, I went to Cameron. I went a semester, didn't do well. Was in my second semester. In the middle of the second semester, I just up and left and joined the Army. And I stayed from March of 1966 to October of 1990. And the Comanches are a warlike people. We always have been warriors, Numu Tekwaru. And that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a Tekwaru. I wanted to be a warrior, a soldier, a fighter. And that's what that interprets to. So that's my reason. And then after I got out of the military, I wanted to contribute to, when I got out, I wandered around for 2 years in Utah and Idaho and New Mexico, and I came home in July of 92. And I became a member of the War Scouts and then the CIVA. And they do a lot for our veterans, both the organizations. The War Scouts are non-existent now. They kind of faded away, but CIVA has been around since 1976. Kevin?
Well, as I stated before, I come from an Army family. My father, the late Calvin Poapashko Sr., served in World War II, Korea, and got called back in Vietnam. So there you go, the three wars. But like I said, even though he served, I was growing up, I was kind of like didn't want to think of the military or law enforcement. And so I just, I kept growing up, and, during school, I was inspired by our neighbor, a good friend of mine. He's a deceased now, retired Lieutenant Colonel Art Hansen. He was a pilot. He flew fighter aircraft, during Vietnam War. Then right where we lived at, we had a gunnery range here on Fort Sill there west of Cache called Falcon Range. Well, he was a range safety officer there, and he was my next-door neighbor. So he drove a van. I seen this guy in a flight suit, and I'm kind of like, okay, I wonder who this gentleman is. Well, found out his wife was a teacher there in Cache, so I got to meet his wife. She introduced me to her husband, and I spent my weekends, and like kids spent weekends somewhere. I spent my weekends at the the Falcon Range there in the tower, watching aircraft come in and out. So it's kind of like inspired, then to want to get in the Air Force, become an aviator. But I had a setback, my ears. So I was kind of like disappointed. So then I went to college, went to Cameron, Southern Nazarene University. Then I just needed that discipline, and for some reason, and I always remember what my mother, late Velma Poapashko, always said, son, if you ever go into the service, don't go in the Army. I want you to go in the Navy. And I said, Navy? How come? And I said, well, you have two of your uncles that served in the Navy. And I said, from your grandma's side, from the Yolkswide and Tatanepa side. I said, you have Rafe Jean Tatanepa. He served in the Navy. And I said, oh. So she showed me a picture of him. And also your uncle, Curtis. And I said, he served in the Navy. So I looked at, he showed me a picture. She said, the reason I want you to join the Navy because I love the Navy dress blue uniform. And I said, okay. Well, I decided right then and there, and I said, well, get my mother's wish. So I went down and recruiter and talked to him. I had Colonel Hanson, with me by my side. So we had taken the exam and had to wait, a little bit after the exam. Then they brought me back in. They said, well, we need navigators. We need people, to do navigation. And we're going to offer you these other schools, but, like I said, this is really what is in demand right now. So I guess I scored pretty good on the math portion and the algebra. So they said, well, if you want to join in, we'll give you a bonus and blah, blah, blah. So I sat there, I looked at Colonel Hanson, and he said, well, make sure it's black and white. So that's when I went in the Navy, served as a quartermaster with the navigation department. So I stayed with them, active duty for a while. So my first assignment was the USS Bagley. It was a frigate out of San Diego. So not knowing, after we went on deployment, not knowing was going to be involved in the second largest naval engagement in history, which is called Operation Praying Mantis. So the USS Samuel B. Roberts hit a mine while we were in the Persian Gulf, and we was on our way to Mombasa, Kenya, and I was on watch, and they told us to turn back around and set a course back to 000. So we had to get the chart and had to get the other navigators. So we had to get us from point A to point B, and in no time. We'd got to be there at a certain time, blah, blah, blah. So we had to get all of our math and everything else, set a course, and headed back over there. So we met up with the USS Enterprise. We called the Enterprise Battle Group. So then the commanding officers had a meeting. Then after their meeting, we went straight into Persian Gulf, and what we were assigned to do was with the Surface Action Group Charlie, which we were involved with, and we engaged the Iranians naval forces, and so we were credited for sinking with one of the ships with our two other ships that was with us, and basically was on a seek and destroy mission. And we were fired upon, and it's not fun being fired upon. You got aircraft inbound. It's not fun, seeing the missiles launched and coming at you. And my general quarter station was on the bridge wing, which I could see everything, but my job was, to do like a battle assessment. So I was relaying everything, to our, commanding officer and also our gunnery crew, along with the other lookouts that were there too. So like I said, we was on a seek and destroy. We got missiles shot at us. First of all, what caught our mind was we heard like a sonic boom and a big splash, and we didn't know what the heck that was, and found out it was a Silkworm missile that was launched, and it went between our ship and the I forgot the other group ship that was in with us. So that kind of opened up our eyes. Then we started launching chaff, metallic paper, likes it all just in the air. And so we was out looking around, and it got tensed. And basically, we was on a seek and destroy mission. We destroyed their Syria oil platform, and we went back into getting ready to engage a couple of other ships within there in the Persian Gulf. But like, so it was the second largest naval engagement in history, since World War II, and I'm honored to be a part of the history of that. And with that, like I said, we destroyed half the Iranian Navy within less than 30 minutes. So we went back, and I served on the Bagley for a little bit. Then it was transferred to Naval Air Station Meridian, Mississippi for my shore duty. So that I got my touch within the law enforcement field. But first I had to go to training there at Lackland Air Force Base. And after Lackland, we went to Meridian. So got to touch, get a little taste of little law enforcement, military law enforcement. So I kind of like, made my mind up, I'm going to try the law enforcement field. But remember, I didn't like the military, and I didn't like law enforcement. So at Meridian, I didn't transition over reserves, and it was my time to transition to reserves. So I transitioned, and I worked with the Mississippi Department of Corrections. So I got affiliated with them. They recruiters, came out there. So matter of this, I was the only Native American there and working in the prison over there. So I made rank pretty fast. I became a colonel within year and a half, 2 years. And then they promoted me to an administrator. So I was basically overseeing the warden and deputy warden within that time. So, but with the passing of my mother, it was time to come home. So transferred to Tulsa, Naval Reserve Center in Tulsa. Then I became affiliated with the Bureau of Indian Affairs and worked with the out of Muskogee first. Muskogee office, then was selected to transfer back to Anadarko, which was pretty cool because I knew everybody in Anadarko. But I worked there at the law enforcement agency there in Anadarko with the BIA. But then what got me involved with CIVA was my niece. She was a CIVA princess, during that time. But the gentlemen that were there, like I said, excuse me to giving their names, but you had a lot of the old timers there. You had Nipper T. Dark, Steve Chibetty, Charles Chibetty. It was just that brotherhood, back then. When they were at a couple of events, and I said, I would like to be, involved, within, this organization. So then Edgar, late Edgar Montachi came up to me and said, well, grandson, he said, join the military, then, you could be affiliated with us. Well, sure enough, then came that time. So I was working as a police officer, but then I got affiliated with CIVA. But it's a brotherhood, and so there's a lot of us that had experienced a lot of things that, like I said, overseas or in the military, and they are there to talk to. And, excuse me. So a lot of guys, have, PTSD from, coming back, and that basically I must, had a little bit of that doing with the, my time on active duty, and it was just that brotherhood, that was there. So then came around and I got selected later on to being a second vice commander, then vice commander, then got selected as commander. But then I had to leave, for a bit because I had taken a promotion to Montana. But then I worked in Montana, and then I came back, then got elected back as a commander again. So, but yes, it's a good organization, a lot of history. And like I said, it was just thankful for, my mother for influencing me to go in the Navy because, like I said, it's just when I was there, I have a lot of friends that I still keep in touch with. We on Facebook or, basically emails and so forth. So we still keep up that brotherhood. And a couple of them came down for the Comanche Fair. They really enjoyed it. And so, a lot of them do come, within the area. And I have other, shipmates of mine that I served with and live near close by, and they're willing to come back. again for the Comanche Fair, once again, and when we do hold that. So, but it's good to see all my fellow shipmates around here, and which I had to do meet one. Like I said, my ship I was on, we hadn't seen each other in 35 years. Thankful for Facebook, I found him, and his name is James Zerniak. He's one of our associate members. So I served with him on the USS Bagley, and I found him on Facebook, and he made a post that he was working there at Elsis Air Force Base. So, I invited him up to our, one of our Veterans Day powwows, and it was good to see him. And like I said, we hadn't seen each other in 35 years, and it was just good to see a fellow shipmate after that, a long time. But good to see him, and like I said, other guys within my unit, and like I said, I was with the gunboats. We'll call it Brownwater Navy, the Naval Coastal Warfare. And I get to meet with quite a few of our other guys, close by. And so, it's good to, it's a good organization. And like I said, it's just a good brotherhood. And like I said, I'm glad to be a part of it.
Well, after hearing about your experiences and a little bit of your background, I kind of want to relate it to what Lanny said about one of your reasonings being our Comanche warriors. So the Comanche people have a long tradition of warrior culture. Do you feel that tradition influenced your experience during active duty?
It's my younger years. They weren't traditional. Our elders. My grandmother, raised us white. And Dad worked and Mother worked, and myself, my brothers, we cared for her. I mean, done her bidding and stuff, And we could speak Comanche good back then. But when she passed away, I was in the 7th grade, and we just got away from it, and I forgot everything. It's the same way as when I went to Thailand. In 3 months' time, I could go downtown and barter in their language. A year after I come back, I don't remember anything because I wasn't subjected to it anymore, and it just got away from me. And now I can still hear phrases and words, that I hear people talk, and I can. Most of the time, they don't say it right, and it's kind of you kind of have an idea what they're trying to say, But my cousin Sam Davini and I, we hashed this and that, together. And but it's just the warrior tradition. I've read about it. When I was in the military, a lot of the guys, especially up the northeast part of the states, were still scared of the Comanches. I mean, they still had those book learnings, I guess, But as far as, other than that, like when my dad, I mean, like I said, I have all the respect in the world for those World War II men, what they went through and why they did what they did, It's just like Dad was telling me, God works in mysterious ways. Germany was almost winning the war, and certain things happened, that it's kind of like hard to explain. I mean, you look at it military-wise, but then you put, God into it, and you see why it's just like he was with that bunch that took the Remagen Bridge. It was the last bridge across that Rhine River into Germany. And they took it and held it, and all the Allies got across. And then after they left, 10 days later, it fell in. The engineers were working on it, the American engineers. Some of them got killed, but still, Dad said, that bridge held all those guys going across, all the military going across. And then just when they was working on it, nothing going on, it just fell in. I mean, it's kind of like a divine intervention, But he said if that didn't happen, or if Germany won the war, we'd all be speaking German, or, all the brown-skinned people, Hitler might have tried to do away with all of us, the same way he did with the Jews. So, you don't know, it's one of those type of things. And it's just like, I don't know if Lanny went through this or not, but when we hit San Francisco International Airport coming home, we were booed. We were cussed at. We were called baby killers. We were called every name in the book by a whole big old crowd in front of that San Francisco International Airport. And it wasn't just the Air Force. It was Army, Navy guys. We were all congregated there getting our flights home. And boy, they just unloaded on us. And the only ones that really cared about it or really showed their affection for us was the Native Americans. They're the only ones. And even when we got home, I got into a few fights with non-Indians, because we were in Vietnam and what have you. And it's just, that was a very unpopular war, I guess, But we were told before we come home, don't wear these uniforms, because they knew, and so, but it was, it's just one of those type of things, it just, but, and I got sacrificed in doing what we did over there, it cost me a divorce. I really didn't care about anything when I come home, and I wouldn't talk about anything. And the only time I felt like I could relate to anybody was when some of the other veterans, we all congregated, and we could talk to each other. And my buddy said, yeah, we're here drinking these beers. We don't have to pay $25 an hour for some psychiatrist, and but it helped. It really did. It really did help, and but after a while, you get your life squared away, get turned around, and I'll credit one pastor. His name was Reuben Ahady from Little Washita Church. He got me going back in a straight and narrow line, and I'm a reborn Christian because of him. And he told me, like I searched all my life for something, was never happy. Thought I was, but was never really happy until I found God and Jesus Christ. And he said, that's what you was looking for all that time. I said, you're right, And now I've never been so content all through my life, even when I was in high school, even when I was a star football player, star basketball, star baseball, star track runner for Sarae. I didn't feel the same way I do now because I feel like I'm content, and it's through Reuben Ahady. He's pushing me, or not pushing, but he had a way of getting you involved with that. Let's sit down and talk about this, or he had a way of getting you involved with that without making it seem like he was trying to straighten you out or help you out, But other than that, I used to read all the time about the great Comanche warriors, and to this day, I often, Sammy and I discussed why when the Comanches were so powerful, they fought the Army for 40 years. Who were all those warriors? Or who were all those chiefs? You don't, the only one you hear about is Quanah Parker, Ten Bears, horseback, but not so much as Quanah Parker. But I mean, they were in the faltering days when it was coming to an end. What about who were those chiefs when the Comanches ran? All of Texas, New Mexico, and parts north. And that gets me to wondering, and it kind of inspires you, thinking about, the warriorship. And my dad used to tell me about how powerful they were. And my grandpa would tell me, he said, first thing a Comanche warrior did when he got up in the morning, he'd go water his horse. And I said, golly, Grandpa, what about his family? He said, son, that horse made him powerful to protect his family. It's just like a tank. He said, if you didn't have that to protect your troops, he said that horse was that important. And I said, well, I never thought about that, And then he said, and the women folk did all the work. They set up the teepees, they pulled them. I said, the men didn't help. He said, no. He said, because they were there always ready on their horses with their lances, with their bows. Because you didn't know if a tribe or an army or whoever was going to come over the hill and attack y'all. He said that's why we were so powerful, because the Comanches was always ready to fight. He said that's why we had that much territory. And I said, well, another thing I wonder about, when they camped by a creek or anything, I said, all that grass how did they get? He said that grass wasn't tall back then. He said, you had a herd of buffalo was 70 miles long and 150 miles wide. It's just like a lawnmower going through there eating up all the grass while they were so, I said, well, I never thought about that. It's just, but those old folks, they knew, they and even though my grandmother was one of the first Christians there at Little Washita, she still had her old ways, taboos and medicines and stuff, and we used to help her gather broomweeds, the flowers of broomweeds. I remember she was treating my uncle for TB, and she cured him with those flowers. and just things like that, it's just, and we were an interesting item when we lived between Fletcher and Surreal at the county line up on a hill. And one evening we were outside playing marbles. I was probably in about the fourth or fifth grade. But after we got through eating supper, it was a beautiful spring evening, and we were out there playing marbles. And my youngest brother, he's hard hearing. He can't hardly hear. But he heard first. He stopped and said, hey, you guys listen. Did y'all hear those drums? And we were on top of the cellar, was between my grandma's house and our house. And we got up there, we stretched out. And then to the west, there was no native families to the west. There were nothing back there really. And we listened and listened. I couldn't hear anything. But though my other brother under me said, yeah, my cousin. He said, yeah, we hear it. You hear it? Listen. And I was straining my ears and I couldn't hear. And then I just relaxed. Said, oh, y'all ain't hearing nothing. I just relaxed and started looking around, and I heard. I never heard those type of drums before. All I heard was the moving drums. And but these were like the regular powwow drums, deep, hollow. And then after a while, you could hear the men singing. The voices were heavy and deep, And then after a while, you could hear the ladies come from behind them. And we stood there just listening, and it was awesome. And we were standing facing the west, and the sun was almost down. But there was no houses back there, but where was it coming from? It was just so awesome, we might, and then they said, well, what do we do? Go get Dad. So my little brother, he took off running, and he went to the house, and it was just little ways. When we heard that screen door close and Dad come out, it all stopped. And we didn't hear it anymore after that. And I said, wow. And then we went to a powwow when we moved into town when I was in the 7th grade. And the Pee Wee Opkins were having a powwow at the grade school gym. And we was walking down the streets going down there. You could hear it sounded just like, I said, hey, Dad, we've heard that before, man. Yeah, boy, that's something else, But the warriorship, and I think about, who all was here, before we were, that may have been some residual, of what they done. Mm-hmm. But being the Comanche warriorship, you see the pictures, the paintings, even like, my cousin Rance and them, they've done some good. It gets you, it makes you, it kind of inspires you, and even my grandsons, they ask, well, what about this? What about that? I said, well, I really don't know, but here's what my grandpa told me, and my dad told me, I said, but my warriorship in the younger days, I was playing sports, and it's a world of difference. But they know about the warriorship, and the guys in the military, that's, I know when we like when we'd go, we had to go out, if something was up, we heard something going on the perimeter, we had to go out and check it out. We had the squad go out there. I'm going with Tejano, man. I'm going with him, because I had a medicine bundle my grandpa gave me. And they knew, those white guys, they knew, and I'm going with him, man. I'm going with Tejano, and then it's all, get out of here, man. You got. But I mean, they I guess they, from what I see, or saw, and the way some of the Indian guys told me that was the way it was. They tried to hang around the Indian guys because they knew they all had medicine.
Okay, nobody knows how the Comanche warriors were from the time we surrendered. Prior to 2 June 1875, when Quanah Barker brought the last group of Comanches in to Fort Sill, that was the end of our warrior days. We were no longer warriors. Prior to that, we fought the Spanish, the Mexicans, the U.S. Army, the Texans, the Texas Rangers. We owned the western half of Texas. We owned the western half of Oklahoma. We owned the southwest corner of Kansas, the southeast corner of Colorado, and the eastern part of New Mexico. We never gathered as an army because we were so scattered out. But that was our domain. We protected that domain with about 7 or 8 bands of Comanches, each one with their own designated leader. I don't know if this is true or not, but, our history from 1875 down or back is oral. We didn't have computers, typewriters, pencil and pens, didn't know the alphabet. We didn't have any of that. So what I'm telling you is based on oral history that's been passed down, and I'm sure it's like someone whispering in someone's ear, and then it goes around a circle, and the last person that hears it is not the word that it started with. Well, we weren't warriors no more. 1872 to 1897. We had 23 Comanches served with Troop L, 7th Cavalry, and 15 more that were scouts. We had 1 Comanche that served during the Spanish-American War. We had 63 that served in World War I. 8 of them were wounded. Then we had 218 in World War II, 143 in Korea, 344 in Vietnam, and 211 during the War on Terrorism. So, our warriorship basically ended until actually 1883, when the first Comanche to serve in the white man's army was a guy named John Shabata. He served in 1883 and in 1886, and then our Troop L people served. When I got home, like Roger, they pulled me out of the bush. I still had my uniform on. I turned in my weapon, my grenades, my ammunition. Hadn't taken a shower, got on that plane. I flew home, got to Fort Lewis, Washington. First thing they did was let us clean up, gave us new uniforms, gave us a thick mattress to sleep on, and fed us a steak dinner. And the next day they gave us Class A's. I flew to Los Angeles. No one said nothing to me. No one spit on me. What I saw at the airport was these guys in these white robes with bald heads beating on drums. But I got a lot of dirty looks. I flew into Oklahoma City. I took a taxi. The Indian Fair was going on. I got home. When I got home, boy, the Indian people just put me on a pedestal. The white people, like Roger said, they did some bad stuff to us. They said bad stuff to fellow Americans, but the Indians, no, we were warriors. We were combat warriors. We fought the enemy. We killed the enemy. And that was just fantastic. I had an honor dance for me before I went to Korea, and supposedly, in the old days, when the Comanches would go on a raiding party or a hunting party or something like that, one person would say, "Hey, I'm going on a hunting party. I'm going on a raiding party. I'm leaving at sunrise tomorrow morning. He was in charge, and whoever went with him went with him. Sometime they were gone a week, sometime a month, sometime a year, sometime even 2 years. And when they returned home, they stopped outside the camp, supposedly. They sent a runner and they said, hey, our warriors are back. That's if nobody got killed. So our warriors would ride into camp, prancing around. The women and the old men and the other people would welcome them. They'd have build a big fire and they'd dance, and the warriors would get up and tell of their deeds. Well, we don't do that no more. We don't brag on ourselves. I brag on him, and I brag on him, and that's the way we do things now. Why we got away from that, I have no idea. But traditionally, I missed 25 years of my life with the Comanches being in the Army. Germany, Korea, Vietnam, all over the United States. So I missed out on a lot of things, but there was a lot of changes where I will say, I'll finish up and say this. 1 year at the General Council, I asked a question, and there was 500 people there. I said, how many of you had a father, a mother, an uncle, a brother, a sister, grandma, that was in the military? Out of those 500 people, probably 475 stood up. So we are deeply affiliated with our veterans. And then you can go back, like Roger said, a long time ago, and we don't know who they are. There was a Comanche supposedly named Greenhorn. He was an absolute terror of Comanche country, and he got killed by the Spanish. And then you had people like White Wolf, Quanah Parker, Horseback, just to name Issa Rosa, that were great warriors, supposedly. We don't know that, but oral history has told us that. So it's an honor for me to be placed on a pedestal, and I share that pedestal with 1,312 other Comanche veterans. We're all standing on that pedestal. No matter what we did, we all wore the uniform of the United States military. And I'm telling you, it's a great honor to be called a technobob. It really is. Kevin?
Well, before I start off, like I said, our Vietnam veterans were, like Roger said, they're just pretty well disrespected. And like I said, just coming from another era, I'd like to wish them, Lanny and Roger and all the Vietnam veterans, and are listening, welcome and welcome home. And like I said, sorry for, how you've been treated when you got, back in the days when you came home from that, Vietnam War, because it was nasty, from what I'm hearing. And so like I said, my heart goes out to our Vietnam veterans. And on your question, I knew we came from warriors. Okay. And there's always, like I said, I always hear, stories about, our Comanche, men, going out, being feared warriors. So, like I said, coming, listening and all of that, like I said, it's just, implementing that in the military. And so, like I said, my late father, late Calvin Poapachko, he served in World War II. And I'm just trying to figure what his mindset was. He was shot at. He survived a beach landing there in Normandy. Then he took fire upon himself. He was decorated for heroism, which I never knew until later on, until we found paperwork. And, yep.
Let me add to that. His dad was at Omaha Beach. They had more people killed than at Utah Beach or any other beach in Europe for him. And we were there, all of us.
Oh,
We were on top of the ridge. I don't know how the heck any of those people survived, but his dad did. And almost 5,000 other Americans died on that beach that one day in June the 6th, 1944. For him to survive and our 14 code talkers at Utah Beach is a miracle. It really is. It really is. We didn't lose a single Comanche at either beach, but we had Ralph Peward was wounded there. I don't know how your dad survived it. You know, the good Lord was looking over him. I guarantee you that. I'm sorry, Kevin.
Well, we never knew of it till we came upon paperwork, and after reading, and I was like, oh my gosh. But we knew that we came from a warrior status. We were the most feared tribe within the plains, and living up to that. In the military, when I joined the service. Like I said, I look back at what I mentioned the names earlier, Charles Chibetti, Steve Chibetti, all the old timers back then. Like I said, just looking back, during their time, and so I knew that we had that warrior spirit, that fighting spirit in us. So when I reported to my first command, the USS Bagley. And we were attached to a squadron, and what they call Destroyer Squadron. So ours was Destroyer Squadron 13. So on our on the side of the ship, guess what we had? A young warrior painted on the side of the ship. So I checked on board, and like I said, I was only Native American, there on the ship, and people, respected me. Being, Comanche, because they said, oh, man, the Comanches are, you guys are, fighters. And so we don't want to, touch, get it, get on your bad side or whatever. But being with that squadron, seeing that, emblem, was painted on the side of the ship with and it was called the Little Beavers. And so, seeing that, and, like a lot of people respected me. My commanding officer, he respected me. And so, like I said, trying to live up, to that, and let's say having that emblem on the side of the ship, and with that, living up to that, that warrior, spirit, being in, like I said, going back and mentioned about being involved with Iran. The night before. And we had to get, I couldn't sleep, But what really encouraged me was listening to the old songs like my, grandmothers and all of our old elders at the West Cache Nazarene Church. They would sing, Comanche hymns, church songs. So I had that going in my mind. Then, waking up, next morning, like I said, just, you're not all there, hardly any sleep, you got adrenaline going. Then, but then, like I said, just picture in my mind what the warriors went through back during that day. So I got up, stood tall, went to battle stations, and I got dressed, and was, we're ready. We're ready to fight. It was just that, that spirit, that warrior spirit that kept me going. And so when I was, came back, like I said, everybody, respected that. And they, like I said, everybody got, they called me up, hey, what do you see out there? What do you see? Blah, blah, blah. So when I said, hey, we see another ship out there. He said, what? So there's another ship out there. Sure enough, like I said, they fired upon us first, and we turned around and sunk it. But we, like I said, it was just everybody kind of like followed, behind me a bit, there on the looking out. But then, coming back and to this new, what Lanny talked about, the war on terror, when we got called up for Iraqi and Enduring Freedom. And, like I said, I'm part Kiowa also. So I was given, like we had a going away, for me. And my grandpa, Atwater Onco, he turned around and prayed for me. And told me stories about the warriors, back then. And, during that time, he was, gave me my feather, my medicine bag. So my medicine pouch. So I, reported to my command before I deployed, and everybody really enjoyed it. Where I had, still wore my, medicine pouch, and I had my feather, in with my cap, because command, they really, they sit there, oh man. So we really enjoyed that. And I said, well, my grandfather, he sent me away. So we had a little going away dance here at Watchtaker Hall before I got deployed. But being, like I said, being in, going back in combat again, like I said, it's just that warrior, spirit that kept me, going. But yes, there's fear. All of us could agree. Yes, we get scared. But then, you still got that, adrenaline. You still got that, that warrior spirit. And myself, I didn't want to let down anybody. I didn't want to let down my family. Like I said, coming from a military family, I didn't want to let down my tribe. I just wanted to keep my head up and, keep on going and fighting, if we, need to. So, but yeah, we, that warrior spirit, like I said, just, like I said, I just look back at what Lanny was talking about, old stories from way back when, and listening to some of the elders within our tribe, telling the stories too. But to get back at one other thing, I look back at growing up, I got they're two cockoos. They're not my cockoos, but I looked up to them when I was growing up, and that was May Cable and B Sawpetty. They're my cockoos, but we always call them Maybe every time. But every time CIVA had an event, we would help set up their tent. Then I would see all the old timers there with the CIVA there, and but like I said, it was just bringing back some of those memories from way back then, and seeing those gentlemen and figuring out, like I said, what they went through during the time. Some of them were, Korean War veterans at that time, and Vietnam veterans. So like I said, but my heart really goes to all of our Vietnam veterans, because the way they were disrespected and the way they were treated, coming back home.
Let me add something to that. Before I went to Vietnam, my grandmother, when I said my goodbyes, she took me back into her bedroom. She had her back to me, and she reached down, and it was her medicine. So she prayed for me in Kiowa. She put red paint on me here, 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 and here, and she prayed for me. When I went to Vietnam, there were 4 occasions that I happened to be at the wrong place at the right time. Because I could have got killed. I could have got killed by a rocket, small arms fire, a mortar. I was blown off my feet by a rocket one time. But I came home because my grandmother doctored me. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that's true with Roger. So that Indian way, a long time ago, our grandmothers, they made sure that we were taken care of. In combat, there's 3 things that help you survive. One is your training. One is your adrenaline. And the most important thing is luck. When you get in combat, your training will kick in. Your adrenaline will kick in, and all you want to do is kill them before they kill you. The biggest thing is being in the right place, or being in the right place at the wrong time, I guess. I know a Comanche man was sitting on a patrol. He had a can of peaches in his hand. He got shot out of his hand. Now, if the enemy that shot that peaches out of his hand had moved his sights a quarter of an inch, probably shot him in the head. That is what you call luck. He had luck. Roger, they were hit one night. They came through the wire. They destroyed some aircraft. He was in a fight for his life. They destroyed half the Iraq, almost the entire Iraq army. He was in for the fight of his life. And I saw a few things that we had to fight. So we were all blessed with luck. Thank God. So let's take a break.
Yeah, I was about to say on that note, let's take a break and we're going to hear from Jolene Sconchin about all the upcoming Comanche Nation events. And when we return, we're going to hear about CIVA, its history, and their involvement with the organization. We'll be right back.
Ha'amaraweka namana, Nase Jolene Sconchin, and I am the Director of the Public Information Office for the Comanche Nation. November has arrived and there are many events happening in Comanche country, so please take note of the following events. November is National Native American Heritage Month. The Comanche Nation Transit is offering all Native American passengers free rides on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays throughout November. You must provide a Certificate Degree of Indian Blood, or CDIB. For more information, call the Comanche Nation Transit Department. The Comanche Nation Fitness Center is offering 24-hour fitness center access that is available to enrolled members of the Comanche Nation for a fee. This is available until December 5th. Contact the Comanche Nation Fitness Center for more information. Also, the Comanche Nation Fitness Center is sponsoring a Holiday Duo Consistency Challenge. Teams of 2 can enter the challenge until November the 17th. The challenge is from November the 17th through January 9th, 2026. For more information, contact the Comanche Nation Fitness Center. The Walter Service Club will have its annual Veterans Powwow beginning 2 p.m. on November the 8th at the Comanche Nation Complex's Watcher-Taker Hall. There will be gourd dance, scalp and victory dances, and contests in the evening. Contact the Walter Service Club for more information. The Comanche Nation Prevention and Recovery will have anger management classes. The classes are free to attend and is on a first-come, first-served basis. Sign up by November the 10th. For more information, contact the Prevention and Recovery Program. The Comanche Nation Casinos, Numina Grill, Comanche Burger Companies, and Red River Cafe will offer 50% off of one entree from 11 a.m. until 8 p.m. on November the 11th to honor all veterans who served. A military ID must be shown. The Comanche Indian Veterans Association will host its 49th annual Veterans Day celebration and powwow beginning noon until 10 p.m. on November the 11th at the Comanche Nation Complex's Watcher-Taker Hall. Flag raising will be at 8 a.m. The flag of Robert Ticeahkie will be flown. There will be Thui dancing, scalp and victory dances, followed by gourd dance. For more information, contact the CIVA. The Comanche Nation Office of Environmental Programs will have a round robin 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. November 12th through the 14th in Indiana, south of the softball field. They will accept tires, aluminum, plastic, cardboard, e-waste, metal, bulk items, paint, and batteries. Contact the CNOEP for more information. The 29th Annual Marine Corps Veterans Gourd Dance will take place from 2 p.m. until 10 p.m. November 16th at the Kiowa Tribal Complex's Red Wolf Community Center in Carnegie, Oklahoma. The Native American Marine Corps Veterans Princess, Casey Adovich, who will be passing her title on to another young lady, invites everyone to the powwow. Please note that the contact and application information for the programs I mentioned can be found at the Comanche Nation website, www.comanchenation.com. Also, look at the Comanche Nation News Facebook page and the Comanche Nation of Oklahoma Facebook page for additional information about events and activities. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Reporting for the Comanche Nation PIO News, Nase Jolene Sconchin. Era.
Okay, so now that we're back, You mentioned CIV earlier, so I kind of want to introduce our listeners who maybe don't know, kind of give them a brief history and what CIVA stands for.
Well, CIVA stands for the Comanche Indian Veterans Association. The first veterans organization amongst the Comanches was called the American Indian Veterans Association. It was formed in 1919 after World War I. And it existed until 1976. And it was Comanches, Kiowas, Apaches, Cheyennes, and Arapahoes. On August 18, 1975, Edgar Monotacci, a Marine, World War II, Clifford Otataiwo Sr., a World War II Army guy, and James Chestnut, a World War II Army, they chartered the Comanche Indian Veterans Association. So this coming August, we will be 50 years old. Okay? Now, 1,312 Comanches that we know of served in the military. Now, think about that. Out of every 1,000 Americans, only one served in the armed forces. 70 Comanches out of every 1,000 serve in the military. So that tells you about our patriotism. 721 Comanches have served in the Army, Army National Guard, Army Reserve, Women's Auxiliary Corps, and Women's Army Corps. 150 have served in the Marine Corps Reserve, Women Marine Corps, 242 in the Navy, Navy Reserve. The women accepted for voluntary service, the WAVES. 182 have served in the Air Force Reserve, Army Air Corps, Army Air Force, and the Women's Air Force. 5 Comanches have served in the Coast Guard, and we have 1 Comanche that served in the Space Force. The first Comanche to serve was Shabata. He served with the Army in 1883 and 1886. The first sailor was Norton Tekwaru. He enlisted in the Navy on 3 July 1918. The first Marine was Edward Lewis Clark. He went in the Marine Corps in 1933. The first airman was Teddy Tsuda, who went in May of 41. And we've had 5 Coast Guardmen. The first one was Nathan Hernessy. And Emilio Alfaro is our only Space Force guy. 13 of our Comanches have been killed in action. Johnny Rivas was killed on June the 6th, 1944. Melvin Myers, 14 June, 1944. Eli Hosatosevich, 1944. Ben Trevino, 1944. Thomas Chuck Poya, 1944. Gilbert Vidania, 1944. Henry Kosachata, 1945. Henry Conwoop, 1945. Meech Toshaqua was declared dead in 1954. He's still missing in action to this day. Dennis Carty died in captivity in 1952. He was only 20 years old. Russell Pisawanet was the youngest Comanche killed in action at age 19 during the Vietnam War. Robert Carlos Pacheca, 1968, and Josh Ware in 2005. We've had 7 prisoners of war. Bruce Kleinko, Myers Wani, Edmund Goody, Sam Trevino, Doc Pewardy, Carty, and Toshaqua. 11 of our Comanches had died while they were on active duty. Teddy Tsuda, Chester Taya, Richard Forrest Sunrise, James Chokpoya Jr., Wendell Wayerqui, Edward Vidania, Albino Badilio, Anthony Toshaqua, Roberta Rosemark, Richard Wichita, and Willie Kirksey. They all died while they were serving on active duty. 63 Comanches have been wounded in action. 63. Meech Toshaqua was wounded 3 times. Lawrence Toma Jr., Floyd Pattyacre, Larry Salpity, Cloyce Shoney, Otto Tunups, Charles Eatman, Krista Shabata were all wounded twice. Our oldest living veterans were Lawrence Bruce Toma, who died at age 99 in 1989. He was a World War I guy. We just lost Leroy Esadua, who was actually our oldest living veteran. He died at age 102. He was a World War II guy. And we have one that's living that's 99 years old, and that's Thurman Ray Tsuda. We have 5 living Korean War era veterans alive. We have 58 known Vietnam War veterans. Out of the 1,312 Comanche veterans, only 270 of us are alive. Most of them are all gone. Most of them. We've got 28 Comanches. We call them Pakutsis, contrary warriors, or crazy dog soldiers. 28 were decorated for gallantry, heroism, valor, or bravery. We have 2 Comanches that fought and killed the enemy in hand-to-hand combat. It'd take me a while to read them all off, but we have 17 Comanches who were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. Those were our code talkers. And the Congressional Gold Medal is the highest civilian award of the United States of America. So that's quite a honor. We have 6 Comanches that are in the Oklahoma Military Hall of Fame, to include 14 code talkers that served overseas. We have 42 Comanches, including Roger and Kevin, who are in the Oklahoma Military Hall of Honor.
Congratulations.
We have 8 Comanches awarded the Combat Medical Badge. We have 32 Comanches that are Army and Marine Corps paratroopers. We had 2 families that had 6 brothers serve. 2 families. One is the Davis family, who are descendants of Quanah Parker, and one from Roger's hometown, and he knew most of them, is the Bennett family. Mm-hmm. We had 3 Comanches that served in 3 wars. His dad is one of them, John Bennett and Carl Etovich. So they served in 3 wars. We've had buildings and highways named after our Comanches. Eugene Mithlow has a water point on Fort Sill. Josh Ware has a highway named after him. Mish Ticeahkie, an American Legion post. Charles Scheibe has a building named after him at Fort Benning. Lupe Goody has a building at the Indian Health Clinic in Anadarko, and Rusty Wakini had a building named after him at Riverside Indian School. We have 3 drill sergeants, 4 rangers, 6 Green Berets, 1 Force Recon, 1 Pathfinder, and 5 Jungle Experts, 1 MGM Scout, 1 Brigadier General, 2 Full-Blood Colonels, 10 Lieutenant Colonels, 4 E9s, 2 Sergeant Major Academy graduates, 5 Military Academy graduates, West Point, Annapolis, and the Air Force Academy. 2 of our Comanches were in combat for 42 months. Wilbur Sapcut during the Vietnam War, and Frankie Patterson in Afghanistan and in Iraq. 1 Comanche named Max Pacheca earned 11 battle stars during World War II. That's quite an accomplishment. 82 Comanche women have served in the military. We've had 3 Air Force pilots, Mish Ticeahkie, Myers Wani, and Jonathan George. We had 1 Navy frogman, which is now a Navy SEAL. The CIVA, like I mentioned, have been around for almost 50 years. The CIVA went to France in 2014, 2019, and 2024 to commemorate the landing of the Code Talkers at Utah Beach on their 70th, 75th, and 80th anniversary. And I think Kevin's going to try to get another group to go for the 85th anniversary. I'm not sure. But we've had helicopters, airplanes, camps, forts named in honor of our Comanches. There are 180 battle streamers on the Army flag. One of them is the Comanche battle streamer. It's the second longest campaign that the Army fought from 1867 to 1875. One of our Comanches was given a gold star flag. He was killed in France. And the French people, Americans couldn't keep up with the flag, so they hired a company in France. They thought the stars were supposed to be gold after the Gold Star mothers. And they sent one back with the remains of our fallen warrior. So we have quite a history. We have done our share. 70 out of 1,000 versus 1 out of 1,000. We've given you all the freedoms that you enjoy. Most people enjoy our freedoms, but there's some that really don't appreciate us. Vietnam was a bad time. I mean, we were non-existent, I guess you could say. But since then, the Gulf War, Afghanistan, Iraq, they have parades, we have homecomings where the units come in. So now our veterans are getting the recognition that they deserve. But the Indian people have always, regardless, honored our people, and we started doing it after World War I. People came home, and these guys were just... And by the way, 23 out of those 63 Comanches that served in World War I, 23 of them were in France, Germany, Italy, England, Luxembourg. 8 of them were wounded. One of them was given a Distinguished Service Cross, which is right below the Medal of Honor. So we have quite a history. And the CIVA as a group, we have recognized 475 of our veterans over the past, starting in 2002. We've conducted funeral services for 375 of our veterans' families. We have placed 345 military markers. We have done over 3,000 color guards since 2002, since we start keeping records. We don't get paid. We do it because we love our veterans. So, I don't know why these guys do it. I think it's for the same reason I do it. And it goes back to Vietnam. When we were shunned, I don't want that to ever happen again with any of us. And Roger and I understand that. Kevin recognizes that. He knows what his dad went through. And, when his dad got back from World War II, they had parades for him. When he got back from Korea, there was nothing. They call it the Forgotten War. They forgot that we lost 38,000 men over there. We lost 500,000 in World War II, including 9 Comanches. So that's just a brief history on you're going to have to ask these guys why they do what we do. I do it because I love these guys. They're my heroes. They're, like I said earlier, we're all a brotherhood that only another veteran will understand. You won't understand the brotherhood that we have, but it's something we share and that we do. So Let's see.
But I'd like to add in a few little.
Absolutely.
I will say this. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
As you should.
What I want to add into the history is that during World War I, the Comanche veterans were part of the American Indian Intertribal Veterans Association. And that was back in World War I. It kind of faded out. Back in 1946, the American Indian Veterans Association reformed back again after the Korean War. And guess who is that was brought in for inspiration from our first elected tribal chairman, Mr. Lee Multagh.
Yeah.
Okay, so when American Indian Veterans Association was formed, guess what? The veterans had respect for our first elected chairman. They made him the commander of the American Indian Veterans Association. So that came around until after, I'll say back in the late 50s. So like I said, Lee Multagh, he was our first elected chairman of the Comanche tribe, but before that, he was the chairman of the Kiowas, Comanches, and Apaches, where he fought, went into legislation to have the tribes have their own form of government by their own people. So after the American Indian Veterans Association, and like I said, we had the Kiowas, we had Comanches, we had Apaches, Cheyenne, Arapahoes, and so that, like I said, that was a lot of, that's how CIVA was formed from the American Indian Veterans Association. And we consider the Comanche homecoming our birthplace because that's where a lot of our welcome home to our veterans was made, was that taking place there at Walters. So, there's some old pictures of Charles Chibetti, with his mother, pictured with Mr. Lake Pomakia, one of my relatives on, like I said, on the side from Walters. So then, they honored him, there in the Sultan Park. But later on in the 50s, that's when everybody started branching off. The Kiowas went into the Kiowa Black Legging Society. The Apaches got affiliated with the Kiowa Blackfeet, Society. Then the only ones was left was the Comanches. So then after they changed the name from AIVA to CIVA, back during that time. And Lanny brought out, that's when the first elected officers were formed. We got chartered as a veterans group. And like I said, a lot of history and like I said, a lot of credit goes to our first elected tribal chairman, Mr. Lee Multagh. He wanted our own veterans group. And like I said, we're grateful to serve as the ambassadors for the Comanche Nation.
The first commander of the CIVA was Edgar Monatachi. First vice commander was Clifford Otataibo Sr., and the first treasurer was James Chestnut. We have had about 14 elected commanders. Kevin 3 times. Roger, this is his first time. Roger said he's going to hang it up in December, but we're trying to talk him into going another term. But there is only one living member of the CIVA. All the veterans are deceased. The only living member of the auxiliary is Rosalie Penna. We just lost one of our living members, and that was Rita Kusawu. We had 2 living, now we're down to 1. Most of us are Vietnam guys. We have some Gulf War guys now, and we got some younger guys, but we sure wished our younger guys would step up. We all stepped up. We took the World War II and the Korean War guys' places, and Kevin, he stepped up, and we've got a couple others, so.
I want to give credit to our commander. We're going to celebrate our 50th anniversary coming up, and it's going to be around the corner. And I want to thank our commander, Roger Tejano, for letting me to basically work on getting this thing, our anniversary going, so our 50th anniversary. So like Lanny was saying, we were chartered on August 18th, 1976. So we're going to be 50 years old. So we're in the planning of of our 50th anniversary. So we're going to reach out to the Montache family, our first commander, and have his flag flown, during that time. And we're going to recognize, like I said, we're going to have a two-part celebration. Our first part, we're going to have like a banquet, and the second part be on that Saturday. We'll have our powwow and celebration. So we have a committee going, and we'll be meeting here soon. So we're going to go finalize some things that needed to for our 50th anniversary. So we're still planning on that, and we're trying to make this a real big, like I said, a celebration and celebrating our Comanche veterans. So we're looking out to invite our former CIVA princesses from way back when. So we're trying to get, our Miss Tejano, Roger's wife, she's in charge of trying to get, like I said, all of our former princesses, there. So we're trying to make it a big event. And like I said, I guess Comanche still were members of the American Indian Veterans, but even though the Kiowas branched off to the Black Leggings and Apaches, went on to the Kiowa Blackfeet Society, we would like to incorporate them along with the Cheyenne Arapahoes, because we're just kind of like the original, group there with the American Indian Veterans Association. So we're like try to invite them. We're trying to make a big, celebration, recognizing, the contributions of how we started. Like I said, this back in World War I, American Indian Intertribal Veterans. Then it went down to American Indian Veterans Association. Now it's the CIVA. So it's a lot of history.
Is there anything you would like to add, Roger, about that?
I was sitting here thinking, even though we want the younger veterans to come up, one thing some people don't understand is we do have some younger veterans, but they're not like us older guys. We're retired. They still have to work. So there's times they can't, be at the meetings or during the events during the day. And we still, welcome them with open arms and glad that they are coming to our meetings. But other than that, I was going to come up with the reason they're doing most of the history is because they've been in longer than I have. I'm a new guy here, so. But I would like to emphasize anyone, Comanche, that has been a veteran, honorable discharge veteran. If we haven't honored you, or if we don't have your info, it would sure be helpful for us to, you might come contact myself at phone number 583 4082. It's 580 area code. We'd like to have your, info, your bios, their DD-214s, so we can get you in our Patriot room. Because a lot of people come in and look around and they see all the pictures, and we're trying to keep, bios on everything that Lanny started doing that, and it's a great contribution to the CIVA.
If we haven't honored a veteran, and you're a veteran watching us, we've done 475. We just found a new one. His name was Kevin Walkini. We missed him. So if you're a veteran and you served honorably, call Roger, call Kevin, or call me. And if you need our phone number, call the front desk. They'll give it to you. And we'll recognize you. We'll give you an embroidered Grateful Nation blanket, a 16 by 20 framed honor certificate, a honorable service or combat service medallion, a challenge coin, a CIVA hat, a CIVA T-shirt, and a bunch of little. We spend about $500 on each of our veterans. So the people vote to give us the money. And we spend $500 on each veteran. We try to do this at least 15 to 18 times a year. That's why we've done so many in the last 25 years, 475. That equates to about 17 or 18 a year. So we try to do that. And, we'll honor our veterans at their funerals. We'll take care of that. We'll provide a color guard. We'll provide the police department used to have a firing squad. They don't know, but we have a contact to take care of that. We have a bugler. We write family funeral booklets that tells all about them. And a lot of families don't know that their loved ones that died did this or did that. Because, like his dad and his dad, they never talked about it. And we found out information on our own about these men. Roger told me a good story one time. He said his dad is a World War II guy. He said he used to get his brothers and line them up and hup, 2, 3, 4, make them march around.
With baseball bats.
But I do like say what Laney's emphasizing. I put articles in our Comanche Nation News, and so at the very end, I always put on there Comanche information needed. So like I said, if the veterans out there or the family members of veterans, try to get these documents to us. Like I said, it's a record. We keep it in a safe place, and we have we also keep digital records of our of everything of our service members. And the reason that helps is because whenever a loved one passes, one of our tribal members passes, we have that information. And there's quite a few times that we went to veterans' funerals and they didn't have anything. And, like I said, it's just...
We can't give them a casket flag. We can't help them with the burial unless we have that DD 214,
But yes, try to get the information to us. And like I said, it's always put on a news article in our Comanche Nation News. So make sure, like I said, the ones out there, listening that don't have any, and like I said, like to update their stuff or add in or put stuff in. Like I said, we keep all the records, and it helps out, at the very end when the veteran, does pass. So it's just, we'll keep that there. And also, you'll see like the Comanche Fair, Comanche Homecoming. We have the flags flown, and that's where most of our biographies come from, is from all the historical data that, Lanny, reached out to. And, like I said, we do a lot of research, honoring our Comanche veterans.
Yeah. That's important. We have that document.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't have that document, they're not going to get a casket flag. We're not be able to do the honors. So, veterans, if you're listening to us, send your DD or give us a copy of your DD 214. If we haven't honored you, let us know and we'll take care of you, I guarantee you.
Along with that, we'll do interviews with the veterans too. So Lanny will do, some try to get some information and so forth.
I will say one other thing. We also initiate claims for our veterans. We have probably initiated 50 claims for our veterans for compensation. If the number is 50, 49 of them have been successful. We were able to compensate our veterans for disabilities. We've done about 10 widow packages. Every one of them have been successful. It takes a little time, but we do it, and we make sure that they're compensated for their injuries or medical issues they have while in the service. We make sure that the widows get that widow's pension, and we've been 100% successful with them. But you got to ask us. You got to tell us. We don't know if you need our assistance or not. We'll drive to your house. We'll, just like us going up to Wagner, Oklahoma for this one man. We've done that to Oklahoma City. We've done it to Wichita, Kansas. We've done it to Dallas. We've done it to Durant. It's not an issue with us. One of us, or more than one of us, will step up, and we're going to take care of our veterans. We will take care of you, but we can't do it unless you ask.
And one last thing is, Lanny is our ambassador for the Oklahoma Heritage Foundation, the Military Hall of Fame, so he's our ambassador. But we don't also have the Military Hall of Honor. So so he's an ambassador of the Treadwell Pulaw chapter here in Southwest Oklahoma. Like I said, he's ambassador of that. Roger and I were the committeemen on that. So if any veterans, out there, and like I said, would like to get inducted into the Hall of Fame or to the Hall of Honor, like I said, we're willing to bend over backwards to help out, get our Comanche veterans recognized.
We have 42 veterans in the Southwest chapter, the Treadwell Pulaw chapter. Out of those 42, 34 are Comanches. We're heavy with Comanches. And we have 5 Kiowas and a couple of white guys, non-Indians. We're going to try to add some non-Indians in January, February, or March. Okay. And Armed Forces Day, we're going to induct 5 Comanche women veterans. And then, of course, we'll select whoever we need after that. We can only do 5 a quarter. They told us to slow down. We're putting too many people in.
Too many Comanches.
Yeah, too many Comanches. We have there's 17 chapters in Oklahoma. We have 25% of all the inductees. So
wow.
We're doing extremely well. So
and we might add that it's separate from the CIVA. It's another organization.
Okay.
it's separate, but when we do recognize Comanches, we make sure that we take care of them with Comanche funding. It's just like honoring somebody again, you know.
I think something wasn't mentioned about our auxiliary either. It's we all of our wives, girlfriends, or sisters, mothers, daughters, nieces. They're all eligible to be a part of the women's auxiliary.
Okay.
And I think they attend 3 meetings or something, and they're eligible for a shawl that, with the information on the back printed about the veteran that they're representing. And they help out quite a bit. They're our backbone. They do a lot of things for us, and we appreciate them, and we love every one of them. And I think they're going to have to, or they're supposed to do something for this funeral coming up. Since she was an auxiliary member, so
now
that's there.
The first Thursday of each month, the CIVA meets. Those meetings are open to any veteran. We will feed you a meal, and the meal is provided by our auxiliary. But not very many people show up. Our membership shows up, but it's open for any veteran, Comanche veteran. If you want to come eat with us, talk with us, visit with us, show up. We offer that every month. We've had Comanches not want honors. They say, well, I didn't do anything. Well, they did do something. They wore the uniform that he wore and that he wore and that I wore. We will do our veterans right, but they got to sometimes let us know. We find out about some of them. I found out about Kevin Joaquini through Intertribal Visions. He's their mailman. So,
Yeah, we were up cleaning our cemetery and met a young man up there and found out he was a veteran. So it's just in odd places.
Right.
But I got his name, his number. He's supposed to give me a bio on 214. So.
Oh, there's one other thing I want to mention. Every code talker we have, 22. The CIVA bought and put on a flat marker their rank, their name, Congressional Comanche Code Talker, Congressional Gold Medal, Branch of Service, and we placed them at Little Ouachita, Fletcher Cemetery, D.O., Post Oak. We even put one up in New Mexico, Tulsa. We made sure that our code talkers were identified at their grave site, that they were code talkers. We did that for all the families back in 2013, 14, something like that. We've done a lot of stuff. And I hope our Comanche people realize that it really takes our time, but I know these two guys. I've known Roger's been a member since 2013, Kevin since about 2005. They will do anything for a veteran. They really will. But we need the veterans' help sometimes, or the family. If they're deceased, we've even done honor for deceased veterans. We had an honor for Jed Quitabitty, and his family showed up. And he's been gone for quite a while. One time we put up a marker, and sometimes nobody shows up. We tell the family. We put up a marker for Samuel Tabatosevich. Dang, 30 family members were there, all dressed up. And then we put up family markers for other people, and the daughters and the sons would show up. But most of the time, nobody shows up. It's just the way it is, I guess. I don't know.
All right. Well, I want to thank you all for coming and sharing your stories and your experiences. And thank you again for your service for not only the country, but for Comanche Nation. And I want to remind our listeners this Veterans Day, we will, as always, honor all who have worn the uniform, but especially for those who have roots here in our native lands and the warriors who continue a legacy. So thank you so much. And listeners, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.